But with all this affirmative action stuff, you'll be a shoo-in practically.
Wait a damn minute.
Hello everyone, my name is Kaku and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So for today, I decided that I want to do my first character analysis here on my channel and speak about the character Lexi from the television show Little Fires Everywhere, which is on Hulu Plus in America and Amazon Prime in Canada. So before we begin today's video, I just want to remind you all to follow me on my Instagram and Twitter. I'm going to start posting polls on my stories about, different video ideas, whether it be about television shows or movies that you guys have interests in, as long as me, because I want this to be an interactive experience for everyone that, I can talk about things that we all enjoy and kind of dive into those different types of topics. And yeah. Now, I wanted to speak specifically about the character Lexi because although literally all the characters of Little Fires Everywhere could get their own character description because they are very well written and very enticing in their own different ways, I wanted to touch on Lexi because I feel like I could relate to experiences that I've had from different young girls when I was in middle school and high school that had similar character traits to Lexi, and I feel like with this current climate and discussing race relations between different groups, whether it is through race, class, or inequity, I felt like it would be a good character to kind of dive into that would be relatable between the young adult and teenage audience. So the show Little Fires Everywhere is set in Shaker Heights, Ohio, a fictional town in the late 1990s, and shows how these different families, the Richardson family and the Warren family, are intertwined and the different things they deal with in regards to race, class, etc. And it stars Reese Witherspoon, Kerry Washington, and a plethora of other actors and actresses. So Lexi is a typical young white teenage girl who is privileged and lives in a good neighborhood. The first instance that happens with Lexi that kind of shows us the kind of person that she is when she takes the story of Pearl when she first comes to Shaker and she's not able to get into the correct math class for her level, for her education, and the guidance counselor basically shuts her down, which is something that a lot of Black and minority students can relate to, not just in America but across the world in general. And she basically takes that story, flips it and reverses it to fit her narrative to use it for her Yale application. So when Lexi took Pearl's story for her Yale application, she kind of altered it, but at the end of the day, it was still stolen. And even when she explained to Pearl that she quote unquote inspired her story that she wanted to use for her application, she didn't tell her the whole truth, because when her boyfriend Brian, who is also Black like Pearl, told her what she did wasn't right, she thought, oh, let me try to be nicer to Pearl, have a friendship with her, even buy her dress for the dance. And when Brian went to alert her what she did wasn't right, then that caused friction between her and Brian that lasted throughout the series. And the pressure that her family puts on her to succeed and do well is what causes her to do all these things that are not right.
There's all this pressure to be all of these things, to be fucking perfect, but I'm not. I'm not fucking perfect! Yes, you are! No, I'm not!
And when Lexi does this, this basically is the start of her and Pearl's friendship in the show, because up until this point, Pearl had a good friendship with her younger brother Moody, but then because Pearl is trying to get into the popular crowd, she really wants to fit in the community of Shaker, and she thinks that being friends with Lexi will allow her to do that. She kind of transitions from being closer friends with Moody to being closer friends with Lexi. So in a way, they kind of both feed into this narrative that they want for their lives, but Lexi's obviously being a lot more problematic than Pearl's. Another act that Lexi does that kind of shows us, her misogynoir and lack of respect towards Black women and girls versus Black boys and men, as with her dating a Black boy. They're at a drive-thru and they go to pick up their food. It is that window where they pick up their food, and the young girl that is working basically announces their order before giving it to them, and she gets upset saying that's not their order, and basically gives her a really rude attitude and basically says, well, go on and fix it. And right away her boyfriend kind of cuts her off and is just like, why did you have to do that? I would have preferred if he actually reprimanded her behavior and apologized to the worker, but nonetheless, he made her see that that behavior is not okay. Now, one thing I found interesting about the way that they portrayed the relationship between Brian and Lexi is that he seems aware of the ignorant and, you know, racist actions that she does, but it doesn't bother him enough to break up with her. It just bothers him enough to, you know, kind of check her on it. But it wasn't until the end of the series where he finally realized that he didn't want to deal with, you know, dating somebody who acts and does things like this, and doesn't see it enough as an issue to actually stop the behavior. Because essentially Lexi does this behavior throughout the show, but there's never like a click in her mind that kind of makes her see that, wow, like what I'm doing is actually not correct, unless you know, look at what happens at the very end of the story. Another thing I found interesting about Lexi and Brian's relationship, specifically with their breakup, is as Brian is listing all of the microaggressive and racist things that she's done, basically insinuating, this is why I don't want to date you anymore. She literally says, if you think I'm so bad, then why are you still dating me? Which I thought was really self-aware, because she's aware what she does isn't good, but she doesn't care enough to change it. The last thing that Lexi does that really kind of sets her character off the edge, that, you know, all the other things she had done, you're like, wow, this is like not the best, but you kind of could like, I wouldn't want to say look past it, but it seems typical. But I feel like this last act that she did specifically to Pearl was kind of like the one thing about her that you're just kind of like, wow, like she's really not a great person. Is her and her boyfriend Brian, they get intimate, and due to that intimacy and not being properly protected, she ends up getting pregnant. She doesn't feel that she can tell her boyfriend or her other friends out of fear that, you know, her mother and other people in the community of Shaker will find out. So she tells Pearl to go to the clinic with her so that she can get her abortion. And instead of putting her own name, because her mom works at that clinic, and she does this because she tells Pearl that it's more important that people don't find out that she was pregnant over her. I think this was a perfect example of how Lexi views Black women and girls as, you know, disposable. She can use them as she pleases to benefit her life and the narrative that she's trying to make for herself, because she had no care of putting down Pearl's name when realistically she could have put down any random name on the form because they didn't check her ID. And I really liked how when Lexi asks Mia, Pearl's mother, you know, what does she think about her doing that? Did she do the right thing? And she basically just kind of tells her how it is.
I think my daughter skipped school to help you, and you thanked her by using her name and then demanding that she take care of you. I spent 2 months cooking your dinners, working in your house. You never so much as uttered a thank you. And now you want more.
Even though this show is set in the late 1990s, I still think that it's really relevant to today with race relations and class and, you know, talking about interracial relationships. And I think that they did a really good way of depicting, you know, dating somebody of another race and kind of seeing the different ways in which they can be anti-Black and, you know, using microaggressions against people towards your race, but not specifically you. Because I think not even just with dating, but also with friendship, this is something that a lot of people deal with. Like, somebody will be racist or will do microaggressive acts to people of a certain race, but because they don't do it to that specific person, they kind of take a blind eye to it and think it's not okay. And so I think it was really important that they showed that with the certain things that Lexi was doing, that Brian actually was like perking his mind to, okay, no, what she's doing right now is not okay and I don't want to put up with it. I do think that it took him kind of long to, you know, kind of get fed up with her actions, because I feel like for me personally, if somebody that I was dating was doing some of the things that she was doing and thinking it's okay, like this is how it has to be, you know, I'm privileged, that whole kind of behavior, I definitely would have been more fed up with it sooner than he was. But I do think it's good that by the end of the season he realized, like, I can't date somebody like you because you're not willing to change in the way that you've been acting, instead of just being like, oh, you know, I know it's been hard for you, but it's hard for me. But it's like not even understanding, like, you're making life harder for him because of the way that you're acting. I hope you all enjoyed my video today, kind of doing a character analysis with Lexi from the show Little Fires Everywhere. If you guys would like me to do any other character analysis from the other characters on the show, I would definitely be down to do that. So like leave suggestions down below for that, or just videos in general, or if you would just like to further the discussion about Little Fires Everywhere in general, I would totally love to do that. And yeah, I hope you guys are having a good day today and are staying safe and healthy, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.